Backward, Daddy. No. Backward, Daddy. Backward.
Hello, and welcome back. Welcome back to my destruction of this disgusting document. If you remember, what I'm doing is dissecting and uncovering the gynocentrism inherent in this Harvard Graduate School of Education report. This report is recommending new priorities for college admission offices and officers nationwide. I first started out by showing that there were pictures, pretty unnecessary to be honest, but they did it anyway. There were pictures that displayed an inherent bias toward a certain member or certain people group of the population, and it was pretty darn obvious what they were doing. I think I showed that pretty clearly. Go ahead and watch the first video if you missed that part. But this next video is basically describing the recommendations by this board or by this group from Harvard. I'm going to start off by reviewing what the major areas of concern are for this report. So I will recap. 1, promoting more meaningful contributions to others' community service. 2, assessing students' ethical engagement and contributions to others. 3, redefining achievement in ways that level the playing field for economically diverse students and reduce excessive achievement pressure. We're going to get rid of competition. Sounds like a fucking free market to me. Recommendation, meaningful, sustained community service. Essentially what they say is they don't want to see a lot of community service, they want to see meaningful and sustained community service. Basically anything that you can put a bow on and get somebody to write a nice happy letter in sparkly gel ink, then they'll call that meaningful, right? They want this form of service to be authentically chosen, that emerge from a student's particular passions and interests. Are they aware that this is not how the working world works? At all? Recommendation number 2. Okay, the admissions process should clearly convey that what counts is not whether service occurs locally or in some distant place or whether students were leaders, but whether students immersed themselves in an experience. I can see a lot of essay writing related to this. You see how this I have a really big problem with something called qualitative research. If any of you know what that is, essentially quantitative research is numbers, right? Qualitative research is interviews and people giving their opinions and their feelings about stuff. It's kind of like the shrink versus the statistics manual, okay? Qualitative research used extensively in nursing, quote-unquote research, essentially gives you people's feelings and it gives you a picture of the psychological impact of this, that, and the other thing, right? Essentially, that's what these people are saying that they're doing. They are not requiring you give them times, dates, places, actions you took, work that you took, amount of work that you provided for community service. They don't want to see that you did a lot of stuff. They want you to be able to write about how you felt about the stuff you did. So you could show up for one day and you could go home, and if you're a good writer, you can make the whole damn thing up. And somebody will write you off as saying, yes, he was here. And then you can write this big long prose about how wonderful it was, about how engaging it was, and how authentically chosen the experience was. You know, as long as you hit the right keywords, you're fine. So that's community service. Recommendation 2, collective action that takes on community challenges. I wonder if George Zimmerman could put his neighborhood watch time in as taking on community challenges. Anyway, while individual service can be valuable, we also encourage young people to consider various forms of community engagement, including working in groups on community problems, whether the problem is a local park that needs attention, bullying in their school or communities, or some form of environmental degradation. It says these types of activities can help young people develop key emotional and ethical capacities. Because nobody's developed these before this, right? Nobody developed these in unofficial activities. You can't develop emotional and ethical capacities in anything but official activities that addresses your community of people. You can't do it internally. It's just not possible. You can't do it at your church. You can't do it at your home. You have to be out doing something that benefits the community. Hopefully after some heavy fundraising, right? God, this is what they want from their college applicants. Collective action that takes on community challenges. Meaningful, sustained community. What the fuck is this? This has nothing to do with academics. Authentic, number 3, authentic, meaningful experience with diversity. I have black friends. How's that? This is fucking retarded. Service, number 4, a service that develops gratitude and a sense of responsibility for the future. I like Mars. Does that count? Fuck. I plan on having kids one day. Sense of responsibility for the future. Does that count? I'm providing for the human race. They describe this as we encourage students to take up forms of community engagement, service, and reflect. Didn't we have 3 separate sections talking about community engagement, service, and then reflection that helped them appreciate the contributions of the generations before them? I had a history test. I got a pretty good answer on it. But no. We're not talking about quantitative. We're talking about qualitative. How you feel about that. How our lives are built on the service of others and the responsibility to their descendants. Working within a tradition, whether religious, secular, such as 4-H clubs, can help generate this kind of gratitude and responsibility. I'm stunned to silence. Service that develops gratitude and a sense of response. What the fuck does this have to do with college? You're begging. You're writing 50 essays to prove that you have feeling about 50 different separate areas. Take up forms of community engagement to appreciate the contributions of the generations before them. This is 100% feeling to show that you have a sense of gratitude about the generations before you. What the fuck does that have to do with anything at all, much less university? It's a non sequitur. You know, I bet Brown accepted Emma Watson under this criteria. Just saying. I really think I need a shot of whiskey after this. Recommendations for assessing ethical engagement and contributions to others across race, culture, and class. Basically, it's a bunch of fucking inclusion and diversity bullshit. Contributions to one's family. Caring for younger siblings. Taking on... I babysat my kid brother. How's that? This is what qualify people to get into... This is... God, I'm so fucking pissed I can't even talk straight. These are recommendations for the criteria about what qualifies somebody for academic rigor. Okay? Every single one of these fucking things has been about feeling and how you feel about stuff and how you feel about your past generations and shit. What the fuck are they thinking? They're not, obviously. Recommendation number 2, assessing a student's daily awareness of and contribution to others. The admissions process should seek to assess more effectively whether students are ethically responsible and concerned for others and their communities in their daily lives. You know, I really think that this report is the sum total of what you get with an activist generation. We had the baby boomers who were supposed to be all self-centered, right? And then they became the hippies and the anti-war people, and now they're in politics and academia. Bunch of fucking hippie activists. And now they rule the world. But the thing is, this generation is obviously a generation of activists. From the anti-war people all the way up to, Obama. He was a professional activist. That's what he did for a living. And he got elected into the state senate, and then he got elected to Congress, and then he got elected to the presidency twice. He is an activist, a 100% professional activist. President Obama made fundamentally transforming this country into whatever it is that his little peanut waffle feminist brain wanted to come up with. Fundamentally transformed this country into something else, into, a pussified version of Europe. I don't know how that's possible to get more pussified, but anyway, he's sure as hell working on it. These people are trying to fundamentally transform the college admissions process. They want to punish personal, individual academic achievement. These are activists. These are a solution begging for a problem to solve. There is no problem to solve with these people. They will continue, and that's essentially what feminism is. It's a solution begging for a problem. There are no problems on this front. They will create them. They will lie to make them appear like they are problems to be solved. There are no problems to be solved. This is a time in history where We could not have it better. We could not in the West, especially in America. We could not have a better lifestyle than we do right now. And these people want to complain constantly. Fucking constantly complaining about every fucking thing. Rant over. Well, this is one big rant, really. So anyway, recommendation number 2, assessing the students' daily awareness of and contribution to others. The admissions process should seek to assess more effectively whether students are ethically responsible and concerned for others and their communities in their daily lives. The nature of students' day-to-day contact should be weighed more heavily in admissions than the nature of students' stints of service. Day-to-day conduct. Are you going to have to document your day-to-day conduct, how you interacted with people, whether you said politically correct words or not? This is, like I said, a qualitative study, not a quantitative study. Qualitative studies, I can tell you this, give you jack shit of useful information. You get jack shit. It might be useful if you've never been in that field of, say, psychology, which is usually where these qualitative studies come up. If you've never been in that field and you want to get a sense of the perspectives of the test subjects, it can be useful to an outsider who's not in that field because they don't know what questions to ask. They don't know how to interact with the people, right? So they will get the proper idea of how these people feel from these qualitative studies if they're interested. Do you think this shit ever becomes useful at any point in a broad sense? Fuck no. Qualitative studies, and this is all this is. This is all this is. It's one big skeleton of a qualitative study to define a certain type of person, somebody who feels constantly, has happy feelings all the time, who wants to engage with this guy and engage with that girl and engage constantly, who's a happy fucking outgoing piece of shit. How often do you think they're studying if they're out doing bullshit all day? How often do you think they're studying if they're out helping the old lady across the street or volunteering at the homeless dog shelter, whatever the fuck they're doing? This is not about academics at all. So what they're telling me is, through this study, they don't want people that take academics seriously. They only want people that don't take academics seriously, that deprioritize it and prioritize every other thing that makes them feel good about their fellow man. Moving on. Third portion, recommending prioritizing quality, not quantity of activities. Again, qualitative study. They want you to state plainly that they want the applications to state plainly that students should feel no pressure to report more than 2 or 3 substantive extracurricular activities. This is not to reduce paperwork, by the way. This is to decrease a person's or an applicant's feeling of drive. You are not supposed to get as much as you can. You're supposed to make it quality. But you'll notice what they do. It says applications should state plainly that students should feel no pressure to report more than 2 or 3 substantive correct. First of all, they said applications should state plainly that students should feel no pressure. They don't say students should not report more than. They say applications should state plainly that students should feel no pressure to report more than 2 or 3 substantive extracurricular activities. And they should discourage students from reporting activities that have not been meaningful to them. And what is that? That's a qualitative statement. That's not a quantitative statement. You cannot use that. Qualitative statements are subjective. That's the nature of qualitative. They're subjective. All you have to do is be a good writer, and you can bullshit your way all the way into Harvard. Awareness of overloading on AP and IB courses. This is a favorite one of mine. Let's make sure that people that try to excel academically are looked down upon and deprioritized. If you have a shit ton of AP or IB courses, okay, that's advanced courses for anybody that doesn't know. If you have a shit ton of advanced courses for the purpose of proving that you are able to excel academically, they're telling admissions offices to deprioritize those students. They are literally telling colleges you should consider academic achievement to be a low priority overall. That's what this is saying. Then they say discouraging overcoaching. Basically, students are not supposed to know what they're supposed to be aware of or be prepared for when they go to, I don't know, give an interview or complete the admissions process. Options for every fucking thing in this thing except the one that I'm going to go into in a second. Every single one of these is just terrible. It's just fucking terrible. Another recommendation, options for reducing test pressure. That's where the optional SAT comes into it. which is fine. Like I said, a lot of colleges don't even use the SATs. This last recommendation is the only one that's valid, in my opinion. It says expanding students thinking about good colleges, good in quotes. There's a broad range of excellent colleges across the country, and students who attend these colleges are commonly successful later in life in the full array of professions. That is absolutely true. If they want to go to an Ivy League school later, once they have some time under their belt and some experience under the belt and get an advanced degree, that's fine. I went to a state school. State schools are awesome. State schools are almost always sufficient. Why? Because the only thing that employers care about is if it is regionally accredited. Big universities are regionally accredited. Little universities, state universities are always regionally accredited. And state universities are a hell of a lot cheaper than anything else. Don't go to a private school. It's fucking expensive. Anyway, and if you're going to school for anything but a chance to get a job, you're wasting your money unless you already have your own money, or it's not going to be an economic burden. If you're going to put yourself in debt for a college degree, it better be for some kind of employment. Fucking women's studies bullshit. Anyway, but that's what we got, gentlemen. We have Harvard Graduate School of Education recommending that the driven, super smart, and by the pictures, male students are excluded or marginalized at the very least from the admissions process. That's what the Harvard Graduate School of Education is recommending nationwide. You don't think this is going to dumb down our future, if not our current crop of students? I love it when the administration comes out, stares at the fucking teleprompter and says, "Oh, we're falling behind the rest of the world. Oh, our academic scores are sucking. I wonder why that is. We need to spend more money. We just need to spend more money." Well, here's a fucking clue, stupid. You spend a shit ton of money to get students smart, which that's a whole other issue. Obviously, money has absolutely jack shit to do with student achievement. But anyway, you spend a whole shit ton of money. Let's say you get a bunch of kids smart. They're going to be marginalized. Kids that are really driven academically and are really smart are going to be marginalized because they're not out there hugging the fucking daisies. They're not out there planting tree buds and shit. They're not out there helping little old ladies cross the street. They're not out there having meaningful, really meaningful volunteer experiences or whatever the fuck it is. This is what our top university in the country is recommending colleges nationwide to emphasize on their college admission applicants. This is the result of a gynocentric culture. This is the result of an activist generation. And this is the result of feminists and their white knight counterparts taking over the legislature. You think this would have happened if colleges weren't so dependent on federal money? You think this kind of shit would have been produced if men and male thinkers were still in charge of the legislature? It wouldn't. And this is also happening in the business arena. This is also happening in the military. This is happening every fucking where. And we know who to blame. Well, that's the report. I recommend everybody go and read at least the executive summary. It's not very long, and it will give you an idea of exactly what feminists desire for a nationwide population. You think this is just about how they feel about college applicants? Take Obama. If Obama could, he would dictate law. He would go way beyond the executive orders he's written and simply dictate law. Now, some of his executive orders I agree with, and some I oppose. Mass immigration is definitely something I oppose. And seriously, he went way beyond his authority. You don't just get to decide overnight that you're just not going to enforce immigration law. Congress passed it, but I just don't feel like enforcing it. You don't get to do that, Mr. President, and his order will be scrutinized in the Supreme Court soon, as it should be. And if they uphold it, I think we have established again, after the Obamacare fiasco, where they redefined the law, which did not say it was a tax. Suddenly, the Supreme Court decided it was a tax. I'm talking about the penalty. They rewrote law in the judicial branch. So we're rewriting law in the executive branch. We're rewriting law in the judicial branch. And Congress can't get its head out of its ass long enough to fix this problem. I have a lot of problems with the government, so I'm just going to move on. Back to marijuana. Basically, they made weed no longer punishable under federal standards. Even though it is still federal law, they made marijuana no longer under the jurisdiction of the federal government. So if in the states it's legal, they won't prosecute, okay? That I agree with. It's still wrong. It's still against. It is still the executive writing law. He doesn't have the right to decide which laws he's going to enforce. Okay, that's what I agree with him on. I think the fucking federal government needs to decriminalize all drugs, personally. But that's another video. I think that every drug needs to be legalized. But that's neither here nor there. Suffice it to say, if there were legal ways that everybody in the nation could get their drugs, would there be any drug cartels? Look at Portugal. Portugal legalized all drugs. I'm not sure about the specifics, but generally, in general terms, they legalized drugs. If we legalized all drugs, we would have no black markets. Because why? Would you buy it from a reputable dealer? Or would you buy it from a shady dealer? Well, you'd probably buy from whoever has the cheapest price. But my point is that drug laws do nothing but put a shit ton of people in jail and create black markets. Drug cartels are a result of the black markets, which are a result of federal law. It didn't work with prohibition. Why do they think that it's going to work with drugs? It doesn't work with drugs. All drugs need to be legalized. But anyway, that's not my point here. That's just my explanation for my very controversial statements. Okay, moving on. If he could, he would apply everything he applies to the executive branch. He would apply that nationwide if he could. You have mass amnesty. You have all these executive orders he's passed. He would pass that as law if he could. You don't think these professors would, if they could, snap their fingers and everybody is a picture-perfect applicant that they're writing up here in this report? Everybody is more concerned about their community engagement than they are about achievement. These people are engaging in social engineering, and it is disgusting. MGTOW, spread the message and wake more men up. We're half this population. We need to take this back. As soon as we have the numbers, gentlemen, it's a done deal. We've won. This has been Fuck Guilt. I'm out.